My biggest concern is that this crisis is not like the others, and we can't, as an industry or as individual destination marketing organizations, individual communities, respond like we've responded to all past crises, because the world has changed. This is an unprecedented event, and it's really a life event.
You guys, I have been working on something for the last 6 months that has been such a giant project, but I'm so proud of it. I'm excited to announce that I've just released my book. It's called Touch Points, and it's the Destination Marketer's Guide to Brand Evaluation and Enhancement. And it is a comprehensive guide for destinations to look at their brand, evaluate what you've done, and make a very clear and detailed plan of action of how to fix it. And look, I'm biased, right? Because I wrote it, but I think it's so good. I think it's a great guide, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. And I wanted to tell you guys about it. It's available on Amazon. Search Touch Points by Adam Stoker, and you'll be able to get that book for your destination. And I think it's going to be, especially for anyone that is trying to look at their brand holistically, this is the book for you. So check it out. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker, and as we continue to navigate the coronavirus situation, I'm working really hard to get some great industry leaders here on the show. We have a great another return guest here with us today. His name is Will Seccombe from Connect Travel, and Will, welcome to the show.
Hey, Adam, great to be with you. Thanks for the invitation.
Absolutely. You know, I really enjoyed having you on before, and you provide a lot of great leadership for the industry, and I've seen that continue into this crisis. And you wrote an article that I wanted to talk a little bit about with you today, and then we'll just kind of talk a little bit about the situation that destinations are in and what they can look to for the future. How does that sound?
That sounds perfect. Sounds perfect.
Awesome. Well, let's start out just talking about what has, and a lot has changed, obviously, but tell me a little bit about the changes that have happened for you individually since this, since this whole thing started about 8 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's a very interesting time to be in the events industry and the travel and tourism space. So as you can imagine, like many others, we're adapting and really looking at what the future holds. And at the end of the day, being in the travel business and having spent 30 some years in the destination marketing business, I'm taking something out of that Google came out of CES last year. And they said that the most helpful marketing ecosystems are going to be the organizations that are successful and thrive moving forward. So it's our stance right now as an organization at Connect Travel, and me personally, is how best we can support our partners and our destinations, our DMOs, our hotels, resorts, and attractions, as well as the supplier ecosystem that support them, and the international tour operators and receptive operators that have been incredible partners in bringing businesses to destinations for years, and making sure that in this new normal that we're all equipped to kind of build back up and fill the pipeline of future business as best as possible.
Makes perfect sense. And in fact, it's kind of a good segue into your article. You talk about how long you've been in the industry, over 30 years. And you mentioned in your article, you've been through 9/11 while you were in tourism, the Great Recession, oil spills, hurricanes, wildfires, floods. If there's one thing that you've done, you've seen challenging times in the industry. So while this is a new and unique crisis, you've seen this before. Tell me a little bit about what the experience of going through those previous crises has done for your perspective as you navigate the coronavirus situation.
Yeah, they're all also very different, yet a lot of similarities. I actually remember getting the Colorado Tourism Board's strategic marketing plan approved on September 10th, and then driving from Durango up to Aspen, and getting the Aspen City Council to approve the Aspen marketing plan on the evening of the 10th, and then waking up on the 11th to a whole new a whole new world. And
Oh man.
so as we navigated that, obviously, the collaboration and industry communication and, really the reshuffling of all the strategies and plans to get business back as fast as possible. A very, very different environment. And then, at Visit Florida, probably one of the the second most challenging political issue I had to deal with, and singularly the most exciting from a professional development perspective was the response to the oil spill. But in all of those issues, we really were able to develop a cadence of a kind of a plan of moving forward to kind of keep your industry involved, keep the information flowing as best as possible. And I've been really, really impressed with DMOs around the country, many that hadn't had the kind of crises like we'd had in Florida or hadn't had previously dealt with, like 9/11. But the cadence of crisis communication, I think, has been really, really good. And people understand kind of, how to keep their stakeholders and their industry and their travelers as informed as possible. My biggest concern is that this crisis is not like the others. And we can't, as an industry or as individual destination marketing organizations, individual communities, respond like we've responded to all past crises, because the world has changed. This is an unprecedented event, and it's really a life event. I mean, it's going to change consumer behavior, psychology, and it's going to absolutely change the travel ecosystem for years and years to come in ways that we can kind of predict, and some ways that we really don't know.
Yeah, I think those are really good points. And going through the crises that you've been through, you talked about 9/11, you talked about the oil spill, and how, while this is a different crisis than the ones we've been through before, you look at what happened in each of those, and it all felt very earth-shattering, right? It felt like the Gulf would never recover from the oil spill. It felt like after 9/11, nobody would dare step foot on an airplane again after those airplanes had crashed. And yet tourism at the beginning of this year and in last year was at an all-time high, right? And so each time we went through these different economic challenges and challenges in the industry, it came back. And I think it's important to keep that in perspective, that while our approach has to be different as we come through this crisis, I think it's important to have the hope that this industry will recover as it has so many times before.
Yeah, there's no question that we, as humans, desire exploration and travel, and that is not going to change. In fact, it's probably going to be enhanced by this, working from home and staying in place, sheltering in place. So there's no question that our desire is going to be there. It's going to be a matter of safety and making sure that we can provide a safe travel experience. And I think that that will forever be changed kind of in the way that we experience travel. If you go back to the pre 9/11 days, when you could walk up to the gate and welcome your family right off of the plane, and then all the new security protocols that have happened and have been in place for the last 20 years. When you think about Harry Reid, the shoe bomber, or Richard Reid, the shoe bomber, was 19 years ago.
Yeah,
Yep.
important distinction there.
Yeah, we're still taking our shoes off to get through the airport, right? So those because of the nature of bureaucracy, the things that are going to change are going to change, and they're going to continue to be in place, for the next 20 years. So I'm not sure if you've read the article about Etihad Airlines, but at the end of this month, they're going to be testing people remotely, their temperatures, their heart rate, and their breathing rate. And if there's anything that doesn't speak to being normal, they're not going to fly. So things like that are going to become the new norm. You're not going to be able to enter a convention center or an airport without being able to prove that you're healthy. It'll be a shock to the system. It'll be different. It'll require a lot of investment. If you think about all the attractions that are going to have to do that, all the sporting events that, in order to come online, they're going to have to guarantee that they're not letting in people that are sick. So those kind of things will change. It'll drive a lot of a whole new micro industry in terms of the importance of health. But maybe in the long run, we're all a lot healthier as we move forward.
Yeah, I hear so many people talking about, well, when things get back to normal, when things get back to normal. And you make such a great point in this article that we're going to be dealing with a new normal. And we look at those changes. You talk about how now you have to take your shoes off when you go through security because of the shoe bomber years ago and the new security measures that are in place. And at the time, each time those new normal regulations were put in place, it was painful. It was a big change. It was hard, and yet the industry recovered, right? And so it's really important to me to make sure that we're keeping the perspective for our listeners of hope that yes, there's going to be some painful changes, and the new normal, as you refer to it, is going to be very different from the old normal. And yet there should be a lot of hope for the state of the industry moving forward.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you that, again, I think as challenging as this is, my hope is that we individually and collectively as an industry take advantage of this incredible kind of life-changing crisis and look at it as an opportunity. Unlike any of the other crises that we've faced in the past, this time we have the luxury of time. We know we're not going to be bouncing back and we didn't make the Easter. We're not going to be bouncing back in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks or 4 weeks probably before we get the all clear. And even once that happens, I think we're going to be focused on local, kind of local reconnection and local building before we start hopping on planes and flying around the country. Just because of the nature of a ramp up, right? Once we get the all clear and all the new protocols are kind of in place and we're testing, it's kind of slowly evolve out. So we've got a really exciting opportunity in that we have the luxury of time. And we can, I think the organizations that take a step back and really, really look at their why, look at what they're doing and why they're doing it, look at their, mission, vision, values, and goals and objectives, and kind of try to adapt to the new normal, are going to be really, really successful moving forward. And I think on the alternative of that, it's kind of scary, is I think that, the one thing that we can't do as destination marketing organizations and destination marketers is do the same thing we've done after every past crisis. And that's just kind of wait for the all clear, tweak our messages, and then go out at the same time with, art, culture, shopping, dining, fun for the whole family.
Yep.
We've got a great deal for you message. Really, really need to take this time and identify, who are the right target audience, who are the right people we want. 3 months ago, we would have been talking about over tourism and sustainability. It's that same kind of thinking, but in a time where it's a lot more challenging. But how do you identify who are the people that you want? Who are the right people? What are the right events that you want? When we talk about the new normal, one of the things that I think is really critically important is that, this crisis happened, this pandemic happened kind of after an amazing 10-year run for travel industry. It was quarter after quarter, year after year of record visitation. And so our destination marketing has been optimized to deal in that world and is not structured to address the new reality, which is, there's zero in the funnel. We've got to build up from zero over a couple of months of an empty funnel. And so how we're able to do that is going to be really, really important. So I think that the destinations that take the advantage of having this time to really rethink their plan, identify kind of the triggers and the markets that they want to bring back and in what order, and and not only do that from a marketing perspective, but do it from a entire kind of community perspective, so that everybody's on board at the same page and is kind of all working to the same end, which would be really, really important.
Yeah, you make a really powerful statement in this article, and you say, what organizations do in the next few months will determine winners and losers for decades. I don't know about anybody else listening, but I would like to be on the winner's side of that statement. So give me maybe the top 3 things, Will, that destinations can do right now to make sure that they're one of those winners for the next several decades.
I think it's a great opportunity for collaboration, for innovation, and really, really out of the box thinking. I'm gonna use an example that, again, I think is just so cool and so smart and so wise. And it's what the Major League Baseball is considering right now. Um, Instead of recognizing that they're not going to be able to go back and play in front of big stadiums full of fans in the near term, but wanting to continue on with their season, trying to figure out how that can be done. Um, and they floated the idea for the year or for the season of scrapping the American League and scrapping the National League and sending everybody back to Arizona and Florida for spring training and having, playing um, with no fans, but playing the Florida teams playing the Florida League. So the Grapefruit League versus the Cactus League in Arizona. The winner of each one of those new leagues would then play in the World Series. Totally out of the box thinking, and even including things like implementing their computerized strike zone so the umpires can be further away and not be breathing down the neck of the catchers. So really innovative thinking. And I think if that would never ever have been considered before this crisis. So I think if we just take a step back and look at what what is our why, working with our communities to make sure that we recognize and value and are going to support travel moving forward. Who are the right people that we want to be attracting? What's the right mix of international visitors versus day trippers versus meetings and events, and then working to get everybody on the same page. I think to the extent that it has been relatively easy for the last few years, right? It's kind of been a no-brainer of everybody growing. This gives us a huge opportunity for collaboration. Another idea, Adam, is
Hey, can I stop you real quick before you give me that second idea? I was listening to a sports radio station, and they were talking about some of these changes in baseball. And, one of the things they said is, hey, if there was ever a time to try something different, it's right now because you got nothing to lose. And while he was talking about Major League Baseball and sports, to me, for destinations, it's the same thing. Your pipeline is empty. If you've had an idea that you tabled because it just sounded a little too crazy over the last several years, why not give it a shot? What? In fact, and we can go back to this in a few minutes, but you even talk about, hey, let's explore even alternative funding models, right? For destinations. I mean, it's a time where you can try just about anything and you either win or you learn. And in my opinion, you learn a lot more through failure than you do through success, because sometimes success tricks us into thinking that we're invincible. But why not give it a shot and see what you learn in trying new and different things like Major League Baseball did?
Yeah, no, it's a time to think out of the box. I love there was a quote in a Skift article that was talking about this crisis and the opportunity for reinvention. But the line was really, really powerful. It says, universal disruption is the perfect time for reinvention. And that is the state that we're in. So I just think going back to the status quo or going back to the way we were is not necessarily the opportunity moving forward. It's really out of the box thinking, new collaborations and partnerships within the community, with other destinations. Think about this, and we're hearing right now that Washington State and Oregon and California are talking about regional cooperation as they roll out of the shutdowns, and those are relationships and partnerships that never would have happened before. Yet we have our industry kind of built on the foundation of every county's got its own DMO with its own funding, and are all competing for the same visitors. So real opportunities for regional collaboration could come out of this that would that it could be strong enough and successful enough to survive even in the good times. Everybody wants to partner in the bad times, and you always want to build a partnership that's going to be strong enough and mutually beneficial enough to last through the good times as well. And I think those so many opportunities for that coming out of kind of this dead stop that we're in today.
Right. Great point. Well, you were about to say your second point there, and I interrupted you. Sorry about that.
So again, out of the box kind of thinking, but we've had destinations that do great job, servicing of conventions, the convention services departments, really amping up and helping facilitate those big citywide conferences and things like that. Um, but think about the new normal and the fact that every hotel, every restaurant, every attraction is now going to have some sort of a new kind of health check protocols. How can the DMO be the leader and the thought leader in that space? Even the facilitator, even helping to source and sell those products and services to their industry partners. Because outside of your major chains or your major flags, everybody's going to be starting from zero. So a great opportunity to be the thought leaders, the community builders, the invaluable trusted resource for your partners in your community. Just one example. I mean, I think there's so many ways to think a little bit different about your mission, your role, your value add to your partners, and obviously the value add that you're providing, to the traveling public.
Great. I love it. Let's go back to that alternative funding opportunities thing for destinations to explore. Tell me a little bit about how you even go about exploring alternate funding opportunities as a destination.
Well, I think when we look back at at one of the saddest and the pain that's being felt by DMOs around the country, around the world, when funding dries up, it just it's heart wrenching to see all the furloughs and all of the things that are happening, and we are so dependent on typically DMOs are very, very reliant on that bed tax funding. And some organizations, and you have to give Visit California the biggest, and I'm sure they're going through a lot of challenges as well. But they reinvented the model. Some of these downtown development districts have kind of reinvented the model. But by and large, for the last 5 years, destinations have been defending their budgets, and they're trying to hold on to their budgets against all sorts of other needs within the community. And I think this is a time to really evaluate, because there's nobody is this is a travel induced recession. It's the stoppage of travel that has caused all of this, and will continue to be the challenge. So if everybody recognizes the value and the importance of the tourism industry to the local communities, then it is an opportunity to open up a different dialogue.
Yeah.
Other sources of, maybe it's not tourism taxes, maybe it is selling and, sourcing of new, health related products. I mean, there's other ways to address it, but I think it's a ripe time to have those conversations.
Yeah.
And it's a really important time, again, because people will no longer take tourism for granted, to really bring your community together and say, all right, what's the right, what does success look like when we're done with this? How many visitors do we want? What's the right kind of visitors that we want? Not just a mad dash to just get anybody's in the doors. We want to be able to support our small local businesses. We know, you can't support all of our small local businesses just on local consumption. Years and years ago, I was vice president of marketing at the Denver Convention Bureau, and my marketing chairman owned a brew pub. And he said, only about 7% of my business comes from out of state. But the difference is that 7% determines whether or not I'm going to make a profit or I'm going to go out of business. And so,
wow.
And his name was John Hickenlooper. He went on to be the mayor of Denver and the governor of Colorado, each for 2 terms. A really, really smart guy. But that's an interesting way to think about it. So we in our communities are benefit by the spending of out-of-state visitors. We probably wouldn't be able to support all the restaurants and all the shops just based on the spending of the local population. So we do need to get travelers here. It's determining what's the right level of visitation, who are the right kind of people that we want to target and focus on, and really making concerted efforts to those audiences.
Yeah, last week I had Ed Harris on from Valley Forge and had a great show with him, and he's doing some great stuff up there in Valley Forge. But, they're one of the last or one of the few membership-based DMOs in the country. And I thought to myself, man, I would have never 2 months ago pitched that anybody should be a membership-based DMO. And yet, in his community, Do you think those people realize the value of the DMO? Because as members, they're all kind of bought into the success of the destination. And it was just an interesting, different perspective than most destinations are using. And that's more interesting to me today than it was a couple of months ago, based on everything we're going through.
Yeah, so I mean, there's when you think about, I think, successful DMOs, it requires a couple of things. One, you want to have visionary public sector leadership. You need to have a mayor, a city council, a governor that's really bought into the value and the importance of travel to the community. And likewise, be it a membership organization or just a community-based organization, you have to have active, engaged private sector leadership. So really the visionary public sector leadership and active engaged private sector that is all bought into the strategic plan and understands what we're doing and why we're doing and to what end and what its benefit is, not only to each individual business, but to the community at large. And I think so that private sector leadership is really, really important. Likewise, I think you need to have really, really engaged employee base, so they understand why what you're doing is so important. And I don't think that'll be a challenge moving forward. I think everybody is realizing how important those jobs are, but to have them bought in and understanding in this new normal with new protocols and why that's important and how to communicate and how to help ease fear, because that's going to be one of the most important things to getting the travel industry back to record numbers, is people feeling safe and safety. And a lot of that, how do you communicate if you're wearing a mask? The smile is such an important part of the hospitality business, and the welcome. And how do we do that? And how do we train our employees to do that with a mask on or behind a shield? Or things are just going to be different. So how DMOs can really actively engage the employee base is going to be really important. And then comes the marketing, but that marketing doesn't really work unless you've got a visionary public sector leadership. That leadership is going to drive the recovery, the private sector all bought in and ready to row in the same boat, maybe with new collaborative partnerships. And, before the chamber did one thing, the film commission did one thing, the CVB did another thing, and the downtown improvement district is doing something. But if everybody comes together and all going to row in the same boat, those communities are going to have a much, much better chance at a stronger and more robust recovery.
Yeah, great points. And you mentioned, okay, then comes the marketing, right? Once everybody's engaged, and you have done a lot from a leadership standpoint since this crisis started to kind of help provide leadership for destinations. You and I were talking before we started the show, and everybody's getting hit with so much negativity that it's almost so overwhelming that they don't know. It's almost paralyzing, right? To some people, they don't know exactly what to do. But you're doing, through Connect Travel, a marketing webinar series, and I wanted to make sure that we talk about that and have you kind of tell us what you're doing there, what's the point of that, and what can people expect if they decide to attend.
Yeah, so we've started doing that, and we actually have two series, and it's remarkable how engaging they have been. But really, again, going back to the first conversation of the most helpful ecosystems are going to be the more that we can help our partners and going through the crisis, the more successful they're going to be coming out of the crisis, and the better partners we're going to be able to be moving forward. So that's kind of the premise. Definitely upbeat and positive, and addressing this crisis and how we can help each other. Our marketing podcast, we've partnered with Street Sense, and their Josh Collins has done an amazing job helping to moderate the conversation. And as anybody that knows Josh knows, that he is, if anything, he's upbeat and positive and looking for the good and the best case examples and sharing what seems to be really, really good work. So it's a really fun conversation. We're doing it every week. You can go to connecttravel.com/webinars and take a look at those. And they're scheduled at least now for the next 8 weeks. We're doing another one to help support our respective tour operators, our international tour operators, and everybody that's focused on international business development, and had conversations with receptive operators, with international operators. This week, we're talking to international or airline and route developers to talk about how we can start to plan for when the airlines are starting to, rebound some of their scheduling. So it's a really good opportunity. But I think for destination marketers, and we'll absolutely make sure to get you on here, it's really, really cool to see. We have an industry that is very, very collaborative, and in some cases, everybody takes a great idea and copies it.
Right.
Which is, sometimes is kind of stifles some of the innovation. But in other ways, it's just remarkable. It's beautiful. When I was on a call maybe 4 weeks ago, very, very early in the crisis, and Miami CVB talked about they were that day launching their new website to promote all of the restaurants that are open for takeout and delivery. And I thought, what a brilliant way a CVB and a DMO can engage their partners in a time of crisis, help them pivot their businesses and support it. Well, since that time, pretty much every community has done that, which again, taking a really good idea and using it to impact destinations around the country. And we've seen some of those cases, examples. Again, everybody's doing their Zoom backgrounds to do a little virtual vacation. Everybody's doing kind of their welcome message. But to the extent that we can foster collaborative thinking, out of the box thinking, kind of reinvention conversations of how we move forward as individual destinations and how we can help each other do that, the industry will come out stronger if we continue to foster those conversations. So we're really looking forward to continuing that series.
And that's going to be really interactive, right? This isn't like a talking head and you listen. This is opportunity to ask questions. You can make sure that it's relevant to your destination by asking specific questions that you're dealing with, and also listen for other similar destinations with similar challenges, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Much more like a fireside chat conversation than it is a presentation. And the interaction has been fantastic. People are asking questions, and we're all thinking some of the same things. What happens when we get the all clear? Are we going to all be competing against each other? And we had a great conversation last week on the webinar about the challenges of coming back online in the middle of a political season when we're all going to be overwhelmed by political advertising. And how are we going to get our messages across? How do we do that in a way that's unique and really relevant and valuable to consumers? Because all of a sudden, if me as a family traveler gets bombarded by every destination in the country at the same time with the same message, I'm gonna tune it out. I mean, this is a real opportunity again to reinvent the way you're communicating, providing value to the travelers, not just promoting a destination. And I think that the opportunity is going to be amazing for the destinations that really think that through and do it right.
Yeah, great stuff. I'm excited for that webinar series. Excited to be involved, to hear everybody's thoughts, and I think I'm going to learn a lot, and I know that anybody listening will have the opportunity to learn from similar destinations and some of the leaders in our industry. So thanks for putting that on. I think that's going to be great.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to be a part of it, and I'm excited to learn alongside you. We've got a tremendous amount of creative, energetic, really smart people in this industry, and that to the extent that we're able to learn from each other, the more likely we're going to be able to make a real impact in our communities. But I think that the one thing, and we touched on this earlier, that we have this luxury of time. We've got a couple months to really get it right and get our organizations right. But it's hard to, it's kind of hard to do that in an environment where people are getting laid off and communities are, our whole industry is disrupted. So, I think just the opportunity to try to take a step back and really look at the future can turn into an amazing opportunity for upside, for growth, for that destinations and our communities can come out a lot stronger than we even were when we went into this crisis. But it does take kind of a step back and saying, all right, we're not going to be able to just go back to normal. We're going to have to think a little bit different, and let's use that time to think out of the box, be innovative, start to identify people that we can collaborate with around your communities, around the region, around the state, around the world, to do things a little bit different and create win-win opportunities.
Great. And Will, I want to boil this episode down into kind of a takeaway for Destination. So let's say I'm Sally Marketer at Destination X. Give me the most important takeaway moving forward for me.
In my opinion, moving forward, the biggest takeaway is we're not going to go back to the old normal. The environment that we're going to go back to as consumers, as travelers, as marketers, is going to be a very, very different one. And so let's take the opportunity that we have, given this crisis, to take a step back, really relook at things for your community and how you can best add the most value to your community immediately, kind of in the midterm and in the long term. And it won't be just doing the same thing that your organization was doing just 4 months ago. It's got to be different. Take the opportunity to really, really hone in and focus on where you can add the most value, and really, really embrace new ideas, new thinking, and new collaborations.
So if you're listening, and if at any point you've thought in the last couple of weeks, all right, let's see how this shakes out, or let's see what happens, or we're in a holding pattern or anything like that, you're behind, and we need to play catch up. This is, Will has mentioned that we've got the luxury of time in this scenario that we're in right now. And now is the time for proactivity and for re-examining everything. I just think those are great points. Will, thanks for coming on and sharing some of your knowledge and experience and perspective with us today.
Adam, thank you so much for your leadership and for what you're doing with the Destination Marketing Podcast and helping support all of your partners and people around the industry. The more connections we have, the more we share, the more we work together, the better we're all going to come out at the end of this thing. So thank you again for what you're doing. It's very, very much appreciated.
Absolutely. And real quick, how can people find that webinar series? What do they need to do?
Again, it's connecttravel.com/webinars. And you can watch the ones that we've archived on demand, and you get an opportunity to register for free for all of the upcoming episodes that we'll be doing. Again, one a week for international marketing and one a week for kind of the whole marketing ecosystem.
Perfect. And for those listening, we will post that link in the Destination Marketers LinkedIn group. So if you're not yet a part of that group, you haven't seen the article that Will posted in Destination Marketers last week, and you also won't see the link to the webinars coming this week. So make sure you join that group. And other than that, we will continue to bring on as many industry leaders as we can and continue to help blaze the trail forward in kind of uncharted territory as we navigate through this virus. But thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.